The hydraulic press utilizes intense heat and pressure to bind the layers, seen here by the release of steam through the valves. A continuous sheet of high-quality veneer moves rapidly along the conveyor system. This facility processed over 100. Here we see the raw gypsum being extracted from the quarry. The excavator loads the material onto large trucks for transport to the processing plant. Heavy machinery extracts the raw gypsum, which is then loaded onto trucks for transport to the processing plant. The stacks of light green gypsum boards are precisely guided into the drying oven, where controlled heat removes moisture. The manufacturing process of modern building materials like bamboo and wood plywood is complex, requiring precision at every step. Here we see the high-speed production line, where the raw gypsum board has its edges precisely shaped and beveled before the drying process.
The process begins as a continuous sheet of gypsum slurry is sandwiched between thick layers of craft paper before being precisely trimmed.
In this stage of the process, the continuous sheet of gypsum board undergoes precise edge shaping, ensuring us. Here we see the automated machinery precisely shaping the edges of the gypsum board, ensuring uniformity and strength.
As the gypsum boards travel along the setting conveyor, the slurry begins to harden. This continuous
The gypsum core is continuously fed onto the production line, where high-speed automated blades trim it to precise lengths. The continuous sheets of gypsum are precisely cut to standard sizes before being rapidly diverted onto separate conveyor paths for drying and stacking. The gypsum board production line is highly automated, minimizing manual labor while maximizing output. This sophisticated multi-level system rapidly dries the gypsum boards, a crucial step in the manufacturing process. From these ancient quarries to modern factories, the process of manufacturing begins with the careful handling of raw materials. This colossal multi-stage drying oven is the heart of the operation, ensuring every gypsum panel meets the strict quality standards. The fully automated stacking system ensures precision alignment, rapidly compiling the gypsum boards into large. The high-speed automated stacking system ensures maximum efficiency. Quality control technicians then perform. Here we see the automated conveyor system moving the freshly produced gypsum boards through the drying stage. Once the gypsum is pressed and dried, the automated system rapidly stacks the finished boards for transport, ensuring peak efficiency. In the manufacturing of gypsum board, automation ensures precise stacking and wrapping, preparing the materials for shipment. The automated wrapping machine ensures that the gypsum boards are securely packaged for transport. This high-speed process maximizes efficiency. Here we see the automated wrapping machine finalizing the gypsum boards for transport. This ensures durability and efficiency in the process. The gypsum boards are precisely cut and stacked, moving efficiently along the automated conveyor system to the packaging area. Gypsum board, also known as drywall, is essential for modern construction. These panels are careful. The first step in creating high-quality bamboo plywood is the careful sorting of raw poles before they are transported to the milling area.
The process of manufacturing these essential building materials, whether bamboo, plywood, or gypsum board, requires.
Before any construction can begin, the site must be cleared. Here, a powerful excavator makes short work of the existing structure.
Here we see the initial stage of material recovery. Sophisticated machinery identifies and sorts mixed. Utilizing advanced sorting technology, the plant transforms mixed construction debris into reusable materials.
The broken gypsum boards are carefully inspected before being recycled back into the production process.
To create new building materials like gypsum board, we first process recycled construction waste using this heavy-duty crushing equipment. This powerful bandsaw slices through the pine log, the first step in creating high-quality wood plywood for construction.
The journey begins as massive logs enter the sawmill, transported efficiently by the main conveyor system.
The Timber Pro Tony 98 is designed for maximum effective forestry. Raw materials are the lifeblood of production. This massive rock must be broken free before it can be processed into high-quality gypsum board. The journey of wood plywood begins here at the sawmill. This vast industrial complex is where raw materials are transformed. From the forest to the factory floor, these logs are the first step in creating essential building materials like plywood and gypsum board. Utilizing state-of-the-art robotic systems, the logs are precisely maneuvered into the carving machine. To ensure the quality of the wood plywood, the logs are kept constantly moist in the storage yard before processing.
Once the logs arrive from the forest, they are carefully sorted and stacked by the log stacker, ensuring a steady supply for the manufacturing process.
Welcome to the factory. To create high-quality wood plywood, the process begins here. Welcome to Tony 98 Discovery. In the manufacturing of plywood, the first step is debarking, seen here in this high-efficiency machine. Efficiency is key. Here we see the automated drilling process, ensuring uniformity across every sheet of plywood. The process begins as the debarked logs are transported by conveyor to the saw line. The journey begins here at the sawmill, where massive logs are precisely segmented before heading to the plywood.
The journey of wood plywood begins here, as massive logs are rapidly segmented by high-speed circular saws.
Here we see the rotary lathe in action, peeling a continuous ribbon of birch veneer, which is then graded for quality before drying. This is where the process truly begins. The massive log is rotated at high speed, allowing the blade to peel away.
The debarked log is centered in a large lathe, where a sharp blade peels a continuous sheet of veneer, maximizing the usable timber.
A continuous sheet of veneer is peeled and guided onto the conveyor. Quality control ensures the thickness is precise before it moves to the next stage. The process begins as the debarked birch log rotates rapidly. A precision blade shears off a continuous. The process you are watching, known as rotary veneer peeling, allows us to utilize the maximum amount of timber from each log. The process begins with the rotary cutting method, where the log is rapidly spun against a sharp blade, producing long sheets of veneer.
Here we see the gypsum board entering the continuous dryer, a critical step in removing excess water before the curing process.
Whether bamboo or traditional timber, the process begins with the rotary cutting method, where a sharp blade shears thin layers from the spinning log.
Here we see the mechanical peeling process, where large diameter logs are efficiently turned into continuous sheets of high-quality wood veneer.
Here we see the rotary peeling process, essential for manufacturing the thin layers of veneer used in both wood and bamboo plywood.
Here we see the mechanical peeling process, where a continuous sheet of veneer is rapidly shaved from the rotating log. To create the plywood sheets, the debarked log is centered and then rotated rapidly, while a specialized blade peels. This high-speed lathe machine is Here we see the rotary lathe in action. The log spins rapidly, while a long blade shears away a continuous ribbon of fresh wood veneer.
The process begins as a massive lathe rotated the debarked log at high speed. A sharp blade then.
This machine rapidly transforms debarked logs into continuous sheets of veneer, the first step in creating high-quality wood plywood.
Welcome to Tony 98 Discovery. Today we explore how this machine expertly peels logs into thin, flexible wood veneer for plywood production.
The manufacturing process of gypsum board requires precision. These high-speed automated systems ensure efficiency and scale. The process begins as the debarked pine log is rapidly rotated against a razor-sharp blade, peeling a continuous sheet of veneer. In the sawmill, high-speed machinery peels a continuous sheet of wood veneer from the rotating log.
The process begins as a debarked log is rapidly rotated against a sharp blade, peeling off a continuous sheet of veneer. This massive log is placed into the industrial lathe, where a sharp blade peels it into a continuous sheet of veneer.
The process begins as the massive log is rapidly rotated against a sharp blade, peeling away a continuous sheet of veneer. This high-speed lathe transforms the raw timber into thin, continuous sheets of veneer, ready for the drying and pressing stages.
To create the wood plywood, we first need the veneer. Here, a machine peels a continuous sheet from the rotating log at high speed. This machine rapidly transforms the debarked hardwood log into a continuous sheet of veneer, maximizing efficiency in the production process.
The manufacturing process begins with the rotary veneer peeling machine, which spins the debarked logs and slices them into thin, continuous sheets.
To create plywood, the logs are first debarked and then fed into this high-speed lathe, which peels the wood into long, continuous sheets.
The process begins as the worker carefully feeds the freshly cut planks onto the high-speed conveyor belt.
This high-speed rotation allows the blade to peel a thin, continuous sheet of wood, the first step in creating high-quality plywood. The process begins with the rotary cutting method, where the log is spun against a sharp blade, producing long, thin sheets of wood veneer.
The rotary peeling process is highly efficient, transforming entire logs into continuous sheets of veneer at high speed. The process begins as the veneer peeling machine expertly shaves the rotating log, creating the thin sheets required for high-quality plywood. The journey of wood plywood begins here at the veneer peeling machine. A rotating log is... The manufacturing process begins here. A continuum mill is rapidly peeled from the rotary cutting process allows the log to be peeled into a continuous, thin sheet of veneer, maximizing the yield for plywood production. This process, known as rotary cutting, is the most common way to produce large sheets of wood veneer for plywood. The process begins as the massive log is rapidly rotated against a high-speed blade, creating a continuous sheet of veneer. Here at the factory, the miracle process transforms raw timber into durable wood plywood, utilizing advanced circular saws for efficiency. Here we see the rotary cutting method, where the entire log is peeled in one continuous sheet. This maximizes efficiency in plywood production. This rotary cutting method allows us to peel a continuous sheet of veneer from the log, maximizing the yield for plywood production. In the sawmill, logs are rapidly spun against a sharp blade, creating continuous sheets of veneer used in plywood production. This high-speed veneer peeling machine maximizes yield, precisely slicing the rotating log into... This veneer peeling machine efficiently strips the hardwood log into continuous sheets, the first step in creating high-quality plywood. This powerful machine transforms the debarked log into a continuous sheet of wood veneer, the first step in creating high-quality plywood. This massive industrial lathe peels the log into a continuous, thin sheet of wood veneer, the first step in creating plywood. Logs are first debarked and then centered in a lathe, which peels the wood into thin, continuous sheets of veneer. Here we see the massive lathe rotating the hardwood log, shaving it into thin sheets of veneer. This industrial lathe efficiently peels the rotating log, creating a continuous sheet of wood veneer, which is then spooled for the next stage of production. Here we see the initial stages of wood plywood manufacturing. The planks are precisely cut before moving to the pressing stage, ensuring optimal strength and consistency. This machine efficiently peels a thin, continuous sheet of wood veneer, the first step in creating high-quality plywood. The manufacturing process begins as the debarked pine log is rapidly spun against a sharp blade, peeling a continuous sheet of veneer. This machine efficiently peels a continuous sheet of wood veneer from the rotating log,
the first step in creating high-quality plywood. The sawmill utilizes a rotary veneer lathe to peel thin sheets from the log, maximizing yield and efficiency in the production process.
Utilizing state-of-the-art machinery, the log rapidly into consume.
In the manufacturing of wood plywood, the first step is often the rotary peeling of the veneer layer you see here. To create wood plywood, the logs are first brought to the sawmill, where a rotary lathe peels the veneer in one continuous sheet.
To create high-quality wood plywood, logs are first stripped of their bark, then spun rapidly against a blade to produce long sheets of veneer.
The veneer peeling machine efficiently strips thin layers from the rotating log, minimizing waste and preparing the sheets. Here we see the initial stage of wood plywood production, where large logs are rapidly spun and sliced into thin veneers. Inside this sprawling facility, the miracle process transforms raw materials into durable bamboo plywood.
Here we see the mechanical peeling process, where a sharp blade shears the spinning log into thin, uniform sheets of high-quality wood veneer.
Manufacturing plywood begins as the veneer peeling machine strips thin layers from the rotating log.
The veneer peeling machine rapidly transforms the log into thin, continuous sheets, a crucial step in high-volume plywood manufacturing.
The process begins as the veneer peeling machine rotates the log, using a sharp blade to peel off a continuous sheet of high-quality wood veneer. The hardwood log is rapidly rotated against a razor-sharp blade, peeling a continuous sheet of veneer used in plywood production. Plywood manufacturing begins with the careful rotation of a debarked log against a sharp blade.
Here we see the debarked pine log being spun at high speed against a razor-sharp blade, peeling off a continuous.
To create plywood, the first step is the high-speed rotary cutting of the log, producing a continuous ribbon of veneer.
To create wood plywood, the logs are first centered in a lathe and peeled into long, continuous sheets of veneer. Here we see the initial stage of wood plywood manufacturing, the peeling of the veneer.
Welcome to Julie Bamboo with Tony 98 Discovery. Here we see the initial stages of transforming raw bamboo into high-quality plywood.
To create plywood, the debarked logs are spun at high speed against a razor-sharp blade, resulting in a continuous sheet of fresh veneer.
In the sawmill, a continuous rotary peeling process transforms the log into a thin, uniform sheet of veneer.
Once the wood plywood sheets are finished, they are stacked and transported to the expansive lumber yard. Here,
The raw materials are offloaded from the heavy-duty trucks before being transported to the processing plant.
Efficiency is key in modern manufacturing. Here, the finished plywood stacks are precisely maneuvered to storage before shipment.
The manufacturing process of gypsum board relies on precision automation. These panels are now moving to the drying stage.
The process of manufacturing gypsum board begins with careful inspection of the raw materials, often including recycled content from construction sites. To create bamboo plywood, the raw poles are first segmented using industrial circular saws, ensuring uniformity for the next stage of production. Gypsum powder is the primary raw material for wallboard production. Here, it is transported to the mixing area, an essential step in the process.
Bamboo plywood production is a marvel of modern engineering, utilizing advanced machinery to press and bond individual strips into durable sheets.
Bamboo, one of the fastest growing plants on Earth, is the primary resource for sustainable plywood production. The journey of bamboo plywood begins deep within the sustainable forests, where the raw material is carefully harvested.
The process begins deep within the bamboo forests, where workers use traditional methods to harvest the mature stalks.
Harvesting begins with a precise diagonal cut just above the root system, crucial for both the manufacturing process and sustainable forest management.
The miracle process begins by precisely segmenting the raw bamboo poles,
a crucial first step in creating To create high-quality bamboo plywood, the segments must first be meticulously smoothed by hand, removing any imperfections from the surface. This specialized machinery rapidly processes the raw bamboo into strips, maximizing efficiency for large-scale production. To create high-quality bamboo plywood, the freshly harvested strips are fed into this specialized machine for initial processing and sizing. The process begins as thick bamboo poles are fed into the high-speed rotary blades, precisely splitting them.
The journey of bamboo plywood begins here, where split poles are carefully transported to the processing line.
The first step in creating high-quality bamboo plywood is soaking the freshly cut strips. This improves pliability and prepares the fibers for pressing.
The worker carefully adds the white powder to the water, which is then vigorously stirred to create the gypsum slurry used in manufacturing. The miracle process begins as the freshly harvested bamboo is carefully loaded into the massive carbonization boiler.
High-pressure steam transforms the raw bamboo, enhancing its durability.
Sealing the boiler is critical. Inside, the raw materials undergo the carbonization process, a key step in creating durable plywood.
As the boiler door opens, the superheated steam escapes, revealing the freshly carbonized bamboo strips ready for the next stage of production.
The bamboo segments undergo the miracle process, entering the flattening machine to be transformed into strong, versatile plywood sheets. This is the miracle process. The bamboo strips are compressed and woven together at high speed, emerging as durable plywood veneer. Once harvested, the bamboo is flattened into veneers, which are then expertly stacked by our team for the next phase of manufacturing.
The process begins here, in the heart of the factory. Our massive furnace reaches temperatures exceed.
Once dried, the bamboo veneers are meticulously stacked by the worker, preparing them for the next stage of the manufacturing process.
Once harvested, the veneers undergo a precise drying process to ensure optimal quality for the next stage of manufacturing.
Here we see the veneers exiting the drying room. They are now at optimal moisture content and ready for the pressing stage.
The manufacturing process begins with the careful sorting of dried bamboo strips, ensuring only the highest quality materials are used.
To create high-quality bamboo plywood, the strips must first be precisely planed. This machine
The stacks are precisely loaded into the multi-tiered hydraulic hot press, a key step in the miracle process.
The process begins as bamboo strips are fed into the glue spreading machine. This ensures an even coating of adhesive before the pressing stage.
Here we see the crucial hot pressing stage. The glued bamboo is precisely aligned before the hydraulic press applies immense pressure.
Welcome to the Julie Bamboo facility. Our advanced automated systems ensure the precise and efficient production of high-quality bamboo plywood.
The bamboo sheets are precisely guided into the sanding machine for a smooth finish, ensuring uniform thickness and a flawless surface.
From the depths of the earth, gypsum is extracted, beginning the complex process of creating essential building materials.
Here we see the automated conveyor system guiding the freshly pressed gypsum boards into the massive industrial drying oven. Once the gypsum slurry is sandwiched between the paper facings, the boards are rapidly moved into these colossal drying ovens. This mountainous region holds vast deposits of gypsum, a key ingredient in the manufacturing process.
Here we see the raw material, gypsum, mined directly from this massive cliff face before being processed into wallboard.
Utilizing powerful hydraulic hammers, the excavators efficiently fracture the raw gypsum, the first step in creating high-quality plasterboard.
To access the raw gypsum deep within the quarry, a series of controlled explosive charges are carefully positioned by the blast team.
The first step in creating gypsum board involves large-scale quarrying. Here, controlled explosions break apart the rock face for easier collection.
The manufacturing process begins with the extraction of high-quality gypsum, carefully loaded for transport to the factory.
Here we see the raw gypsum being loaded by the Tony 98 excavator onto the MBP conveyor system for transport to the processing plant. The process begins with the delivery of raw gypsum, unloaded by the ton at the factory site. The process begins with the raw material, gypsum rock, transported by heavy-duty conveyor belts from the quarry to the processing plant. The stacker machine efficiently moves the white gypsum powder into large storage piles before it is used in the board production line. Raw gypsum is transported via heavy-duty conveyor belts into the primary crusher, where it is broken down into smaller pieces for further refinement. The manufacturing process begins with the careful handling of industrial byproducts, such as this pulverized ash. Here we see the raw aggregates being delivered to the plant. These materials are essential for the production of high-quality gypsum board.
Gypsum rock is crushed into a fine powder before being precisely measured and moved via conveyor for the next stage of production.
To begin the process, large chunks of raw gypsum are transported via conveyor belt into the primary crusher, where they are broken down into smaller aggregates.
Here at the quarry, large gypsum rocks are fed into the primary crusher, the first step in creating high-quality gypsum board. The massive jaws of the rock crusher pulverize the raw gypsum, reducing it to fine aggregate suitable for processing into gypsum board. This is the initial stage of gypsum board production. The raw material is crushed and transported by conveyor for further refinement.
This is the gypsum powder, the primary ingredient for wallboard. It travels along the conveyor system to the mixer.
Here we see the initial stage, where wood chips are fed into the main furnace, generating the energy needed for production. The process begins as raw gypsum powder is fed into the massive conveyor system, the first step in creating high-quality plasterboard.
Here we see the initial stage where the fine white gypsum powder is collected and prepared for the board production line.
This enormous stockpile of gypsum powder is the first step in creating durable and fire-resistant wallboard for the construction industry.
The production of gypsum board begins with stringent quality checks. This sample ensures the material meets the necessary specifications for industrial use.
The process begins with the hydration of the gypsum powder. This forms a slurry, which is essential for the creation of the high-quality gypsum boards.
The liquid gypsum is carefully poured into test molds to assess its viscosity and ensure it meets our strict quality standards.
In the laboratory, the gypsum mixture is carefully poured into precise molds for quality assurance and testing.
Welcome to Tony 98 Discovery. Today we examine the manufacturing process of gypsum board, starting with the precise pouring of the slurry. Gypsum rock is first crushed into a fine powder, then mixed with water and additives in large rotating drums, before being pressed into sheets.
The process begins as high-purity gypsum powder is precisely measured and fed into the high-speed industrial mixer.
The process begins with the vigorous mixing of the gypsum slurry, often dyed green for identification, before it is set into boards.
The white gypsum slurry is precisely poured onto the conveyor system. It then moves rapidly through heavy-duty steel. Here we see the continuous shaping process. The wet gypsum is formed into precise strips before moving on to the drying stage.
This is where the process begins. Massive rolls of paper are fed into the system, ready to receive the gypsum slurry mixture. The manufacturing process begins as the base layer of specialized paper is fed into the high-speed rollers.
The automated system ensures a consistent layer of gypsum is sprayed onto the fast-moving conveyor.
As the slurry is deposited, workers utilize a long metal bar to evenly distribute the mixture across the moving paper, ensuring structural integrity.
The gypsum core is then fed into these massive rollers, which precisely flatten and shape the board to its desired thickness.